Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the South Orange Village Planning Board for June 3rd, 2013. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Colton-Max?
Here.
Mr. Lorner?
Here.
Mr. Rosner?
Here.
Mr. Hutt?
Yeah.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Torpe?
Here.
Reverend Wilson? Ms. Guha?
Here.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
And Mr. Goldstein?
Here.
Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231 PL 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2013 to the South Orange Maplewood News Record and the Star Ledger in December 2012, and by filing said notice in the office of the village clerk. Thank you, everybody, for coming. It feels good to have such a full board. It's excellent. First, we're going to read, approve or vote on the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on May 6, 2013. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Two abstains.
Abstention.
Raise your hand so she can see you all abstaining. Obviously, some of you weren't here.
I can't vote yet, we're not sworn in yet.
Oh, yes. All right. Well, that's the next item of business. We have two new members who we are going to swear in tonight. Patrick, could you help me do that? Or would you do that? You want to start?
Adam and Mark, you have a swear-in sheet before you, I hope. Please raise your right hands and recite what's on that sheet, please.
Start.
Do you want to do it yourself?
We doing separately or
We'll
together?
do it together.
Hi.
I, Adam
Mark
Lerner, do
Rosner,
solemnly
do
swear
swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and to the governments established in the United States and the states under the authority of the people, and I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of
as a
Class
Class
2 member of the South Orange
of the
Planning
South Orange
Board,
Planning Board,
according to the best of my abilities, and that I will not use my office to grant preferential treatment, nor to seek personal gain, favor, or advantage not available to the public, so help me God.
Well done. All right, thank you and welcome. It's good to have you've been here before. Mark, this is your second term, right?
Yes.
Can't find the exit door or something. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I just take this opportunity to thank trustee, or former trustee Bauer and Ms. Foy for their service to the board?
Thank you. We're going to do that in a formal way as soon as we have the opportunity for everybody, so thank you. We agree with you. We're going to rearrange this agenda a bit. There is case number 226, Seton Hall University, the University Center. That's an application that has begun to be heard and will be carried to the July 16th meeting.
Thank
Okay.
you. Good evening.
All right, good
I
evening.
wanted to call the application to make sure that everybody is aware of the new date. I understand that the regular meeting will be moved to July 16th.
That's correct, from July 1st. There will be no July 1st meeting.
Sorry, when is the meeting?
July 16th. 1/6. Am I correct?
Wednesday is the 19th of July, I'm sorry, July.
Correct? Jetty, is that correct? The 16th?
It
All
is
right,
the
folks?
16th.
Good. We know that not everybody can attend, but we have four that night. Okay?
Okay,
All
thank
set.
you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear case number 229, Janet Youssef, care of San Giorgio Enterprises LLC. This is block 1005, lot 5, 52 Vose Avenue. It is a preliminary and final site plan. The applicant is seeking an expansion of the existing restaurant, second floor addition, and relocation of the storm sewer, and we are hearing that tonight for completeness. Yes, go.
Good evening, Mr.
Good evening.
Chairman. Jerry Friedland on behalf of the applicant. I'm just here to listen and take some notes if I have.
Well, welcome. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Susan, would you like to give us a synopsis of your review of the application?
Certainly. We prepared a completeness
Checklist.
memo on it's dated May 29th of this year. Basically what we have, we recommend that the application be deemed conditionally complete subject to the submission of certain material at least 10 days prior to the scheduled public hearing. And the list is identified at the end of our memo. Basically, just to run through it, traffic and parking impacts, identify the size and species of all trees of 4-inch caliber or greater on and adjacent to the property, identify the location and use of all existing structures within 200 feet of the property, lighting plan and signage plan details. We recommend that the remaining waivers, the completeness waivers that are requested, we have no issues with those.
Thank you. Okay. Board, do you have any questions or comments? Harold?
Item number 19, the traffic and parking impact assessment. So it falls right outside the 200 feet, but my organization that, in my other life and job, that I run owns an apartment building that's not far from there. And it's for senior citizens. And traffic and parking in that area, I can tell you, are both concerns. So I'm going to be very interested to hear what the applicant has to say in this area. Our professional has said that it's parking, a formal traffic and parking impact study is not necessary. I can't say I disagree, but I'm going to have questions, and the more formal information you have about it, the better off I'll feel. I mean, I can tell you that, you know, residents in my building complain about people driving down Bose Avenue a little too fast, increasing the amount of traffic going to the restaurant at night. Well, it's a good thing generally for the economy, something I definitely want to make sure that we're looking out for the safety, especially of the seniors who are living very close by.
Thank you.
Michael, you had a comment?
Yeah, this is, we're talking about Giorgio's, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Has this been submitted to the Environmental Commission? Because I believe it is supposed to go to the Environmental Commission. We're talking about picking up part of that is now grass and replacing it with building. And I think by our own requirements, it's supposed to go. Same way with Third and Valley, when we come to it.
Okay, well, we'll head it over there.
Yeah.
That's going to be easier than Third Valley since we
Yes,
hear them
I know.
tonight. Okay. Well, you may have to respond on your ad lib. Any other comments? Okay, so do I hear a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so we have deemed that application complete conditionally to the items that our planner has pointed out. And I think we will be able to hear that in August.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a little confused as to when the next planning board
August.
hearing date is.
August what?
Now it's August, not
Yes.
July?
July 16th is a special meeting that is a meeting that we've changed.
The July 1st meeting?
I have
The
July
regular meeting?
1st. Is that
That
still,
regular meeting's being moved to July 16th.
the regular
16th.
meeting is being moved from July 1st to the 16th?
Correct.
Thank you.
But we will probably hear it in August, correct, Jordan?
But there is,
There's another applicant that we're hearing, Seton Hall, then. And so I imagine it would be better to plan for for the August date.
July 16th, we'll see you then. Thank you.
Okay, just so that you know that we're hearing another applicant that night that will precede you, and I don't know whether we'll completely finish with them. Absolutely.
I shall so advise my client.
Very good.
Thank you,
I
sir.
would recommend think August. Okay. All right. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question about the agenda for tonight.
Yes.
I note that the last item in the agenda is a discussion concerning a pending litigation.
Yes.
I don't know how long that discussion will last, and obviously I know the issue in question. If it's not a particularly long conversation, I'm just wondering, it seems like we're on a path to hear an application for completeness for the next case for Third and Valley, and if that is in fact deemed complete, not presuming per se that it will be, but if it were, then we would be going straight into that case.
Correct.
And we're talking about perhaps not finishing that case tonight, which leads me to think we'd have a very late evening tonight. My question, therefore, is whether or not it makes sense to try to wait to have the discussion about the pending litigation until the very end of an evening that's going to be very long, or to try to get it out of the way either now or after the completeness hearing, so as to at least make sure we have that conversation this evening.
I think our discussion that we'll have in closed doors is going to be a short discussion. So rather than break up this meeting now, I think we'll be okay to hear it afterwards.
Should be very short, Mr. Chairman.
Should be very short. So we will allow ourselves 5 to 10 minutes after the applicant.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So next case is number 228. It's Third and Valley Urban Renewal LLC. This is block 2304, lot 39, 165 Valley Street. This is a preliminary and final site plan. The applicant proposes to develop on the site a mixed-use residential and commercial structure. We are hearing this right now for completeness.
Good evening.
Okay.
My name is Meryl Goncher from the firm of Greenbaum, Rose-Smith and Davis, representing the applicant in this matter. And we have in fact received...
You talk to
the mic.
We have received 2 completeness letters, and given your procedure, I defer to Ms. Gruhl to address that. But we have most recently received a May 29 second completeness review letter.
Okay, thank you. That's what we're going to do, defer to Ms. Gruhl right now.
So.
Susan, would you like to discuss your completeness review?
Thank you. We had prepared an initial completeness review. Our memo was dated May 13th. There had been a number of items that had not been submitted. Subsequent to that memo, the applicant has submitted those missing items, and most of them, and we have then followed up with a subsequent completeness review dated May 29th. And as a result of the submission, we recommend that the application be deemed complete and that the waivers that are being for completeness only be, at this point, we recommend that those we have no exception from granting those completeness waivers. As we always know, in the course of the hearing, if in fact the board determines that there's additional information that they need in order to properly evaluate the application, then obviously that is something that the board has a right to ask for. But again, in summary, at this point, we recommend that the application be deemed complete.
Thank you. Board, do you have any comments?
I just have a question, and I may be jumping the gun. I have 2 questions. One is a general question, and the other is a specific question. The general question is, and there are items on here where it says that, like for example, I'm picking one here, item number 14 or item number 59. You're talking about taking no exception to the granting of this waiver for completeness only. Well, we're going to jump straight from completeness into the case. So when are we going to get these items if we're saying, well, I know your job is to only evaluate it for that particular purpose, but I'm trying to figure out when is it that we're actually going to get these items to review.
Well, it depends on which item it is. For example, item number 14 is not submitted any copies of DOT or DEP approvals. That is normally, as you know, a condition of approval that if, in fact, the board chooses to do that, that would be a condition of approval that they would have to get approval from outside agencies. Some of the other information, for example, item number 10, regarding utilities, we have received, and this board has received some, but has not received all of those letters from utilities. That is not unusual to proceed without those, understanding that they would have to be submitted as,
But like item number 6, which, you know, we've dealt with things like that before in terms of affidavit of title. I mean, that's, you know, we've definitely wanted to review things like that in advance.
well, there is,
I have particular interest in item number 39, and I'm also looking at item number 59. I mean, all of these talk about, you know, item number 21. I mean, I'm reading through all these
Well,
items.
they all
that
say, each of
that-
these say that the applicant should provide testimony during their application, and I expect we'll hear it, or you can it would be helpful if
Well,
you did it.
it's-
What?
Well, it doesn't quite say that. It just says we take no issue in granting this waiver for
Well, for
completeness.
instance, item
like
number 6 that
21.
concerned you says testimony should be provided during discussing the easement.
Where are you
Yes.
looking?
And
Number
there
6,
was
the one that you
during-
had concerned about.
the discussion under 6, we recommend, there was some discussion within the application submission regarding the easement, and we recommend that there be testimony specifically dealing with that as well. In terms of some of the other information relates again to normally condition of approval or it's just premature.
Well, I think if we hear the application tonight or later on, maybe you can go back through this completeness checklist, and wherever you require testimony will remind us that we need to hear it. That would probably be adequate.
The
Michael?
other question, just staying with number 17, you say an environmental assessment has been provided. I haven't received it in my packet to look at. I haven't seen the environmental assessment.
We did go over that, and we did coordinate with Omland about what they felt was necessary. We did receive information. It may have not been a full-blown environmental assessment, but it had what we believe were the important component parts in terms, particularly in terms of information regarding any Phase 1 assessment regarding the site in particular. So I don't know, I know we had received
Michael, you didn't receive this?
information.
I didn't receive it.
No.
So it only went to whom?
Yeah, I only went to
Patrick.
professionals.
The applicant would be willing to supply copies for the board?
Sure.
Absolutely.
We'll get it in your hands. Soon?
How quickly can we get it in? Quickly can we get them the environmental?
Could I have a raise of hands, how many board members would like to receive and read the Phase 1 environmental assessment report? 1, 2, 3, 4. Can we at least have 6 in case somebody changes their mind?
We'll get those out in the mail to you guys in the next couple of days.
Wonderful. Okay. All right, Mike?
6 copies.
Okay, any other comments from the board? All right, at this point, we would take a vote then, roll call on, we can just do a motion first.
So moved.
So I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we find the application complete, and I believe we're prepared this evening to hear it.
May we just take care of a little bit of housekeeping while we're doing this? What we'd like to request, and perhaps I'm starting off on the wrong foot, so forgive me, is to discuss, or at least put the idea out there, to try to schedule a special meeting.
Oh, yes, thank you
If
for
we
reminding
could-
me. I meant to do that. You're not starting on the wrong foot at all.
Okay.
We have narrowed it down to 2 nights, the 18th and the 19th of June. And we have polled our members and gotten responses from many. And at this point, Ojetti, could you tell us who is available for the night of the 18th? The only problem is our planner is not, I believe.
And I'm not available on the 18th either.
See, it's complicated. Let us know, who do you have
I don't
now
have a backup
available on the
either.
18th? And then we'll say who isn't available, except for members.
I had Harold, Adam, Mark, Deviani, and Michael.
And myself. So that's 6, correct?
Yes.
Are you available?
Yes.
I think I responded, I'd be available on the 8th. Talking about June 18th?
Yes. That's what we're saying. These are available people. But you are not. Would you, someone in your office be able to attend?
Unfortunately, Frank Russo, who was at the one meeting, he has another meeting that night as well. So I haven't,
And Susan, you're not able to attend either night.
Not. I can attend, well,
The
the
ninth.
19th, I'll be.
Are you available on the 19th?
at this particular moment, I can't guarantee myself on the 19th,
But your firm can be
but
represented.
my firm can be represented,
Okay.
yes. I
Who's
may be
available?
able to be here, it depends on what happens next Thursday at another meeting I have.
Okay. Who's available on the 19th?
Only Deviani and Michael.
And myself, because I have nothing to do.
I'm also available on the 19th.
For,
As I said to, I have a planning and zoning committee meeting on the 19th, which is part of the reason because Susan's supposed to be there. So if, push comes to shove, we'll reschedule that meeting. And I'll come on the 19th. It's just, there's a lot of people I have to notify.
And that'll free up 2 people because Mark and I are both at that meeting. So.
well, that's helpful.
I have an issue on the 18th also, Mr. Chairman.
But you're available on the 19th?
I know, but it's just, there's gonna be some
So what
people-
we will do is do some more counting for the 19th, because it doesn't sound like the 18th is feasible, because we won't have any professionals representing us. Why don't we continue with the application tonight, and we will confirm the actual body count for the 19th and let you know if that's a go.
Okay, but let me raise an issue then. We had a little trouble, sorry. We had a little trouble confirming the newspapers for notice. You have a weekly paper that is your official paper, and we got some conflicting views about the Star Ledger. If you don't announce a carry to a date specific tonight, we will have to renotice, which
We're going
is
to make the announcement one way or the other.
one way or the other before we leave.
Returns aren't in yet.
I thought you were going to let us know after we left, and I didn't want to leave it
No,
hanging.
we'll let you
Okay.
know before.
Thank you.
Give OJ time. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to confirm, if it is the 18th, I can get somebody to be here for our office.
Their office can't be, and I have a feeling, well, let's see, maybe we have everything tonight that we need to in terms of engineering, and you won't be required. So let's just start the application, and then we will all respond to what's the best
Hopefully it'll
choice.
work itself out over the course of the hearing. All right, thank you. Again, as I indicated, I'm still Merrill Goncher from the firm of Greenbaum, Rosesmith, and Davis, and we are representing Third and Valley Urban Renewal LLC, the applicant and redeveloper. This is an application for preliminary and final site plan approval, along with waivers and possibly a variance to permit construction of 215 rental apartment units, 3,000 square feet of retail space, and a parking deck containing 529 parking spaces in a unified structure with a height that varies between 3 and 5 stories at premises identified as 165 Valley Street. The property is also identified as lots 3 through 9 in block 2304 on the current tax map of the Township of South Orange Village. The property has frontage along Valley Street and 3rd Street. It is located in the Valley and 3rd Streets redevelopment area, and the proposed development is pursuant to the terms of the Valley and 3rd Streets redevelopment plan adopted by the Board of Trustees on January 14 of this year, with very limited exceptions, which we will point out. The property is currently owned by the Township of South Orange Village and is currently used as a municipal parking lot comprised of 189 parking spaces. The South Orange Rescue Squad facility is also located on the property and will be relocated, and our witnesses will discuss each of these elements of the application. The parking spaces to be developed will be allocated between those for the development, both residential and commercial, and to be used in part by the public upon terms that the township will determine. We have identified relief from 2 provisions of the plan. One has to do with the width of the parking spaces in relation to the width of the drive aisle, and the other has to do with private residential terraces and their relation to the sidewalk upon which they front. This evening, we propose to present, ambitious, but we propose to present Paul Freitag, a director with Jonathan Rose Company, who will provide an overview both of the applicant and its development history and other projects that it has developed, as well as its vision for this development. Mario Iannelli, a licensed professional engineer with the firm of Dewberry Engineers, Inc., who will provide the engineering testimony and touch on some of the traffic and circulation. Brian O'Looney, a licensed architect with the firm of Torti Gallis and Partners, will discuss the manner in which the site design and building effectuate the objectives of the redevelopment plan. Lee Weintraub, our licensed landscape architect, who will discuss the streetscapes and landscaping enhancements proposed for the site. Todd Helmer, a licensed professional engineer with the firm of Tim Haas, who will discuss the parking structure design and its function. And Phil Abramson, a licensed professional planner with Jonathan Rose, who will address the variances or variance and waiver that we are requesting. We've served and published notice in accordance with the MLUL and would ask your counsel or your board secretary to confirm notice has been properly served and published and that the board has jurisdiction to hear us this evening.
This afternoon, I understand there was not yet affidavit of publication on file.
The original affidavit of publication was received a little late from one of the newspapers. We published in two, and that has been submitted along with the original white receipts to your secretary this evening.
Okay. Well, subject to our looking at that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our first witness, let me just discuss, we have provided a disc with all of the exhibits or the slides that we're going to be putting up. And I've discussed with your counsel that that item that we've provided, if we can identify that as exhibit applicant 1, and if we have to number A1, 1, 2, 3, because that way we'll be able to keep track of it in the record. And we've advised that we will also submit hard 11 by 17 copies of everything that we have put in there, and we'll be guided by your direction as to how many of those you want. But we will make sure those will go in the file so that there'll be a hard copy that goes along with those items, and they'll be numbered.
And how many were there altogether in that disc?
Brian, do we know how many? How many? 55 slides. And we do have a few that we will mark as we go, obviously ones that we thought you'd want to see physically, and those are the sample boards. The other things that are around me, just for orientation so I don't have to break, the plans that I'm standing in front of, those are the architectural plans that were submitted.
You have to speak into the...
Oh.
You can take, it'll come out with
Yeah,
it.
but that makes me sound like, feel like a lounge singer, but...
Pull that out.
Oh, this one I can also, okay.
Right.
So what I'm standing in front of, just so the board knows, these are simply the plan set, the architectural plan set that was already submitted. So unless your procedures are different, I would think we don't need to mark that. That's already part of the
We're going to
record.
mark that.
Oh, you do? Okay. So you'll want to do the same with the engineering plan set and anything that's
please.
been submitted?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So the architectural plan set will be A2? The one that's up there is the same that was submitted?
Brian, this is the same set that was submitted to the board? Okay. I'm going to mark this one and we'll leave it with you then? Is that, you want us to leave that set if we're marking it, or are you marking another set of them? No, I mean, do you want to mark the set that's already in the board's file, or do you want me to mark this one and leave?
As long as they're the same, I don't care which ones were.
Okay, are those, is this an extra file set?
This was, I think this is the revised plans.
Okay, that's Dewberry, so that's the engineering. This is the set, this is the resubmitted, the second round set, Brian?
You can't,
Can't what? He can't,
If
I'm sorry.
If he's speaking, he has to come to a microphone, so otherwise the audience can't hear what's going on.
Television.
This is their motorcycle. Okay, so this is, all right. This was, that I'm taking from yours, I'm marking 8A2. And it has the revision date 5/22/13. You want to give me the engineering set? This is the set submitted by Dewberry. Dated May 22, 2003.
13? 13?
13, what'd I say? 20. How many pages in your set, Mario? Comprised of 19 sheets.
Yes, it was.
All right. Okay. I would then like to call our first witness, Paul Freitag.
Ms. Goncher, is A4 going to be the parking garage plan set?
Well, we were going to mark them as we got to those witnesses,
Okay,
but we
that's
can...
fine. I'm just-
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Paul Freitag. I'm the Managing Director of Development for Jonathan Rose Companies.
They're going to swear you.
Yeah, that'd be better, thanks. Or you move your,
How's that? Is that okay?
You need to hold it, maybe you need to take it out.
If the red light behind you comes on, we'll notice.
yeah, that will work now. Beautiful. Yes.
Okay, how's
Please
that?
raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give here this evening is the whole truth?
Yes.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Paul Freitag. Do you want the business address or my personal address?
Business.
551 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York.
Thank you.
All right, Paul, could you please advise the board with whom you're associated in your position with that company?
I'm the Managing Director of Real Estate Development for Jonathan Rose Companies.
And could you please tell the board something about the applicant?
The applicant is Third and Valley Urban Renewal, LLC, which is an entity that we have created for the purposes of carrying out this project.
And a little bit about the relation of Jonathan Rose to that entity, and then a little bit of the history of Jonathan Rose Company, so the board can get a feel for what they do and where they've done it.
Okay. The entity has been created specifically for the purpose of carrying out this project. We create an entity specifically for each project that we do. To talk a minute about Jonathan Rose Companies. Jonathan Rose Companies is a company that has been a leader in green development and investment in real estate for 24 years. Over our lifetime, we have developed, owned, or project managed over 1.5 billion in completed real estate projects. We are a fully integrated organization with 70 employees. And we also have an investment platform that we use in order to acquire real estate across the country. We have a proven track record in all project phases: investment, development, financing, asset management, and green retrofits. I think in particular our national reputation is based on our commitment to green development, which we've carried out, which we've been actively involved in doing green development throughout the entire life of our company. We have a national presence and a national reputation.
Okay. And could you give the board an idea about some of the other projects that Jonathan Rose has developed?
Sure. I'm going to show 3 projects. I want to start by saying that none of these projects are the South Orange project. Each of these projects is in a transit location. It combines market rate and affordable housing. It's mixed use. There's an element that in addition to just the residential development, and each project has a large parking component. So in many respects, it's very similar to the program that we're doing here in South Orange, but each of these projects is unique to the market in which it was developed. So, first one is Metro Green, which is a project that was developed right at the Metro North train station in Stamford, Connecticut. This is a two-phase project which combines both market rate and affordable housing. Actually, a third phase is anticipated. This is a project in downtown Albuquerque that is called Silver Gardens. It too is a two-phase project combining all the elements that we'll be doing here in South Orange. And then the third project is 185 units in Harlem in New York, very close to the Metro North train station at 125th Street in Harlem. And I think what I want to show is that each of these projects is a specific response to its location and to the type of housing that would be appropriate for that market and that location. And the other way in which Jonathan Rose Companies is unique is that we are not exclusively developers. We actually have a planning group within Jonathan Rose Companies that Phil Abramson is part of. And so this rendering is actually showing an example of the work that we're currently doing with the town of Morristown, where we actually act as consultants to the Morristown Planning Board.
All right, and now if we can turn to a description, sort of an overview of what you're proposing for this location in South Orange.
Okay.
Get the point.
There we go. The project program has already been described, so I'd like to just describe some additional benefits that will come from this project to the town of South Orange. I want to also stop for a moment just to say that we've been working closely with the town of South Orange for over a year now, and it's been a terrific experience. I really want to thank everyone for the great help that really has been afforded us on all levels in terms of providing information, helping us come up with really the best plan for the town of South Orange. It's really been a pleasure. In terms of the benefits that the project will bring to the town of South Orange, it's a transit-oriented development that will bring additional customer base for all the downtown businesses. It will bring additional tax revenue to the town, and it will provide very high-quality covered parking for commuters immediately adjacent to the train station. We've just, as was discussed earlier, we've received a memo from Hiram Gruhl, which we're hoping to respond to during the course of this presentation, and so I'll be addressing some of the issues, and all the subsequent presenters will also be addressing some of the issues. The program is 215 rental units, of which 21 will be affordable on site. There are 529 parking spaces, of which 255 are dedicated for public and commuter use, 3,000 square feet of retail space. And among the public improvements is a new streetscape along 3rd and Valley, and we will bond with Essex County for pedestrian improvements to the 3rd and Valley intersection. The retail is envisioned to be light food use or small market. And what we've done is we've actually underwritten the retail in a way that will really provide flexibility. What we want to do is make sure that the retail tenant that we bring in is a tenant that would really benefit not just the new residents, but also serve as sort of a part of the gateway function of this site into the retail section of downtown. I know there were concerns and questions raised about bicycle storage. We actually have within the project extensive bicycle storage room, and we also are planning on providing exterior bike racks that will allow people to park bikes at the project. And in terms of addressing LEED certification, Jonathan Rose Companies has completed a number of LEED certified projects at this point, ranked all the way up to LEED Platinum projects. For this particular project, we are aspiring to, we will deliver a LEED Silver project. And towards doing that, we have already engaged a LEED consultant, McGran Associates, who we've actually worked with on other projects previously, both in New Jersey and in Pennsylvania. And actually, just to give you an idea of how committed we are to achieving LEED certification, I myself am the LEED accredited planner, as is Paul Woody, our project manager specifically for this project. So actually, within our own staff at Jonathan Rose Companies, we have people who have LEED accreditation in addition to the outside LEED consultants that we hire for the project. Just to talk about the timeline, as I think everyone is aware, the timeline for this project actually stretches all the way back to the 1980s when the area was first designated as a redevelopment area. Jonathan Rose Companies actually responded to an RFP that was issued in 2011. We were selected as the designated redeveloper about a year ago, and over the last year have worked closely with the town in order to finally result in an executed agreement with South Orange to proceed with the development. The redevelopment agreement that we've completed with the town describes the project and the development timeline. The project will add 40 units, as per the redevelopment agreement. The project will add 40 units of affordable housing in South Orange, with 10% of those units on site, and then an off-site affordable housing payment of $440,000 in order to create affordable housing opportunities elsewhere within the town of South Orange. We are guaranteeing 255 public parking spaces through a parking agreement, and we're also contributing $200,000 towards temporary parking for commuters during construction. We are also saying that the project will achieve LEED Silver certification. An important element of the project is the relocation of the rescue squad currently on the site. We are funding up to $1.1 million in order to create a new home for the rescue squad, which will be located on 2nd Street, just down from Valley. The indicator, the A there on the plan, shows the proposed location for the rescue squad. There's also been discussion about providing an easement for a bike path between the rail line and the new development. And this plan actually shows the gray hatching next to where it says New Jersey Transit Rail Line, shows the easement that we'll be providing along the parking garage in order to make room for a future bike path. Okay, and I think that completes my presentation.
Very good, thank you.
But
Do you guys, the board, have any questions of this testimony?
I don't want to go first every time, so.
All right, then hold your fire. Anybody else? Go first.
Okay. Just one question relating to the affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
It's my understanding this is going to be 10% on-site, 10% off-site.
Yes.
Unless my math fails me. 20%, what was it, 216 units?
215 units.
215 comes out to 43?
42, I think, would be the rounding up. I mean, I should have said approximately 40 units.
Okay, so they're going to be 20.
By 21.6 times 2, you're right. It would round up to 43.
Yeah.
units.
So
Okay.
so they're going to be 21 on site. So and they're going to be 22 off site. 22 times 20,000 being 440,000. Is that
Yes.
So it's 20,000 per unit.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
And when you said during construction, the commuters are, tell me again what you're doing for the commuters, parking?
We are working right now very closely with the town and the parking authority in order to identify sites for interim parking during construction.
Okay.
And we're contributing $200,000 to offset any costs associated with providing that temporary parking during construction.
Any other questions?
Just,
Michael?
just how are you going to handle traffic during the construction?
In terms of construction trucks, et cetera.
Yeah.
One of the nice things about this particular site, it is a large site, and so I think one of the goals is actually to stage the construction. That we will actually be proceeding with the parking garage first, and actually mobilizing on the site, and then once that's completed, we would then move to doing the other part of the project.
But they're going to use what roads for access into the site?
I'll let the
They're gonna
engineer
come
actually
off-
address that plan.
I'm just concerned with damage to the roads and repair thereof after.
Always concerned about that.
One question, you mentioned that you were going to bond with Essex County for intersection improvements or for, could you just, I see your engineer saying
Right.
he will address that.
Our engineer will deal with the
That's fine.
sidewalk.
Okay. I will hold my question.
Board, anything else? Any questions from the public at this time for this witness? Okay, thank you. No? Yes. Do you have a question? Then you come up and use the microphone and state your name. Maybe a little high, but he'll turn it down. Short people.
You can just take the mic out
Yeah,
and
you
just
can
stay
take
there.
There you go. There you go. That's better.
Thank you.
Yes.
You've addressed a lot of issues.
you have to
but
state your
have
name and
not
address.
addressed-
Could you- yes.
Joan Tudlitz, I live in the Mews
Okay.
on
Thank you.
3rd Street. But
Good
you
enough.
have not addressed the traffic issue. At the present time.
We will probably get to that with another witness.
I just want to mention what I feel. The
Ma'am, I
president-
don't want to interrupt you, but
What?
the way this goes is, the way that we run our meetings is that when we have a witness, you're able to come up and ask him particular questions to his testimony.
We will discuss traffic.
Yes, we will. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Our next witness then will be our engineer, Mario Iannelli. Let me qualify you, and then you can. All right, you need to be sworn.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give here this evening is the whole truth?
Yes.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mario Iannelli. My address is 600 Parsippany Road, Parsippany, New Jersey, with the firm of Dewberry.
Mario, can you please advise the board your position with the company, your responsibilities, and any licenses that you hold?
I'm a licensed civil engineer in the state of New Jersey. I received my bachelor's degree from NJIT in 1993. I received my master's degree from NJIT in 2001. I've been practicing civil engineering for 20 years, and I'm a licensed civil engineer in the state of New Jersey.
Have you ever appeared before a board such as this, and have you been accepted as an expert in the field of engineering?
Many times. Communities in the area, Caldwell, Fairfield, Parsippany, Wayne, New Jersey, Vernon, I can go on.
We would ask that the board accept him as an expert in the field of engineering, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Proceed. Okay.
Thank you for accepting him as an expert. Okay. Mario, I'm going to let you have the lectern and just ask you if you could start by advising the board your responsibilities in connection with the application.
Good evening. I'm the manager of land development services at Dewberry, and on this particular project, I was the project manager. My job and my role as a project manager is to oversee all site civil-related design disciplines. That would include drainage, traffic, that would include geotechnical. I basically am involved in one way or another in the preparation of the plans and the reports. And it's my job to basically oversee it all. That's why I signed my name on the plans. And I do have a very hands-on approach, and I'm involved, and hopefully with the presentation this evening, I can convey enough detail to you if you have any questions. I hopefully don't need another witness, but hopefully let's see where we go with that.
All right. And Mario, let me just ask you, you are familiar, are you not, with the redevelopment plan that guides this development?
Yes.
Okay. And just tell us which exhibits you're going to rely on.
Right now, I'm referring to you. This is an exhibit that's in the PowerPoint, which is on the screen above you. It's an aerial of the project site. I don't believe it needs to be marked because it's in PowerPoint.
Right. And that will have an A1 number when we get you the hard copy. And
Okay.
let me just confirm. You provided the aerial, which became the slides. So you're working from the same document.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Could we help to identify for the record exactly what it is while Mr. Iannelli talks about it? If you could just describe the legend on the...
Absolutely. I'll do that right now. Basically, what you see here on the screen and on the board right here, third easel from the left, is an aerial that we presented using the state provided aerials. It's to basically give you an idea of the surrounding area. You being from the community, I'm sure you know the area well, but sometimes it's very helpful to look at it from a bird's eye. What I'm highlighting on the The aerial on the board is a yellow rectangle. You can see it on the PowerPoint. That is the location of the site. Just to the west of it, I'm highlighting on the aerial, is the Morris and Essex rail line. And then you also have the Rawway River located further to the west. And basically this is to give you an idea of not only what's currently on the site, but also to give you an idea of how the surrounding community has been developed.
Just, Mario, what does it say on the lower right-hand corner of the plan itself?
It's overall site aerial, sheet 1.
Thanks.
The site in question is roughly 2.7 acres. It's predominantly developed with different things through the years. It currently has 189 park striping stalls, which are used for commuter parking. The site currently has 5 points of access for vehicular traffic. There's 4 on 3rd. There's actually 3 of those are two-way, both in and out, and 1 is just out. And there's 1 on Valley located on the southeast corner. And that is also a two-way. The parking lot is kind of divided into 2 tiers. Ever been there? The parking lot on the corner is a little more elevated than the parking lot down towards the rail. You cannot drive from one to the other. They're kind of tiered and disconnected. Based on an evaluation of the FEMA maps, the site is not located within a floodplain, and there was no observed wetlands or other regulated areas on site or adjacent to the site. The existing site has a high elevation of roughly 159. It occurs near the corner of Valley in 3rd. I'm highlighting it on the board. And it basically drains in a westerly direction towards an inlet at elevation roughly 142. The site also has the existing rescue squad, as you had mentioned, that's located in the northwest corner or northern corner of the site, right up against the rail abutment near 3rd Street. Now I'm going to refer to a sheet that was submitted to the set. Yep.
You got to point to the side projector.
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
Again, can you just identify how that's referred to in the plan set, the sheet number?
Absolutely. It's sheet 1C102, entitled Site Plan. It basically shows the proposed building shadowed on the site. The proposed building, as you heard, is going to be 215 units and 3,000 square foot of commercial with a new parking deck. You'll hear a lot more about the building from the architect, but if you look at the board or at the screen, you have almost the front portion of the site, I should call it, along Valley and 3rd is where the units are, and then that rectangle, almost solid rectangle on the back of the site is the parking deck. Again, that will be touched on in great detail by the architect. The current site, the way it's designed, has multiple points of pedestrian access. You have, I'm highlighting again on C102, there's a front courtyard that's a notch in the building. That front courtyard is pedestrian access to the proposed commercial. Working your way around the building towards 3rd, there is the main entrance to the site, to the residential component of the building, which will be at the corner of Valley and 3rd. There will be a plaza there, again, that will be touched on in more detail. Then as you move down on 3rd, there is going to be terraces that was was mentioned earlier about one of the deviations from the standards. Those terraces are actually sunk below the elevation of Third, right, roughly 6 or 8 feet on the high side. That goes and transitions to basically at grade. As you go down Third further, there's pedestrian accesses to the main residential component of the building, which will happen right about where I'm highlighting. And then the vehicular access to the site will be all located near the northeast corner of the or face of the garage on Third. That's basically adjacent or across from Sloan. That will have a exit and entrance to the garage, and you'll hear about the operations of the garage. Basically, the cars are going to enter the garage, and the garage will have a mechanism splitting the basically through signage, the traffic that's associated with the residential and the traffic that's associated with the public parking. And also, the loading area will be located in that area. The refuse, all the garbage is going to be internal to the building. The refuse is going to be handled by a private hauler. That private hauler is going to, basically the terms are going to be dictated that it's going to be picked up on off-peak hours. The loading dock is large enough to accommodate a truck backing in, but the actual hauler is going to have to decide in their means of how they want to pick up the garbage and how they're going to handle it. But those details will be worked out. It's pretty common in a facility this large. When you're exiting when the vehicles are exiting the garage, we have also prepared sheet C-103 entitled Site Distance Plan. It's also shown on the PowerPoint. What we did here was actually to confirm that we had the 280 feet that was required. We actually went out to the site. We went down roughly 3.5 feet from the ground, which is the driver's eye, exiting the garage, and we actually measured off a car 280 feet away and made sure we can see it in both locations. We wanted to use a photo to actually do this because of the trellis. I mean, you have the tree, you have the rail bridge that is kind of hard to determine.
Just take the mic with you.
It's kind of hard to determine from a plan view that you can see under a rail bridge. So we thought it was much more effective to actually scale off the distance to the 280 feet mark, actually stop the car there and take a photo that you can actually see the car and then some. It was the best way we can think of with the abutments and the columns that we can ensure that you had the proper site distance. We also tried to, well, one thing I did leave out, I'm sorry, at the corner, and the architect is probably grinning that I left this out a little bit. He's going to touch upon the architectural component of this tower located just across from Sloan, which is a critical part of his design and also part of the redevelopment, about the pedestrian approach. When people are walking down Sloan from the train station, what do they see? And that is the primary exit for the pedestrians associated with the parking or the public parking within the deck. And again, that will be touched on a little more by the architect. Moving right along, let me get the screens to match here. I'm now referring to sheet C300, the utility plan. It's also on the screen. That's why half-size sets are so much better. Yes, the project will be serviced from utilities along both 3rd and Valley. We have sent will-serve letters to East Orange Water. We have sent to joint meetings to the town, to the village, and we have received some feedback from PSE&G and from Verizon. We do realize that we are going to have to, joint meetings first has confirmed they do have capacity, but there will be a DEP permit associated with the project. If this board chooses to act positively on the application, we have to go through a DEP process, which every step of the way is going to be confirmed to the conveyances, to the actual treatment capacity. And also, they do have a requirement to try to offset some of the historic infiltration of stormwater. We like to refer to as I&I. And they provide certain provisions that you can do with an infrastructure upgrade, from as simple as changing manholes with holes in them. If you change them out, you get a certain amount of credit, preventing the water from discharging in, or even better yet, rediverting some stormwater from combined sewers. We're going to work out with both the township, the village engineer, or the planning board engineer, I should say, and the village engineer to figure out which one's the best way to accommodate it, but we were absolutely going to meet that requirement. We did reach out to East Orange Water. We do realize that there are some firm source capacity issues there, and that's going to have to be resolved. If the board, again, chooses to act positively on this application, we will have to go through a DEP process for that. And as part of that, there may have to be some kind of agreement with another water purveyor to offset that shortage of water, but it's going to be dealt with. So we know that, and we know we have to deal with it. We've done that many times in the past. It's called transfer of allocation. They have interconnections between these water purveyors. So whatever it has to be, at some point it'll get worked out. Back to the C300. As you can see I'm going to go back and forth from C300 to the overall site aerial. The site is predominantly developed, and it predominantly drains in a direction towards the rail. A good drainage design always maintains the existing drainage patterns. That's the first thing you do, is identify where the water is going and try to control it and identify if there's any existing problems and try to mimic what's going on today and provide the stormwater management measures that can actually reduce the stormwater as per the regulations. So what we did is we looked at, as I mentioned before, the site predominantly drains towards the rail to actually an 18-inch pipe that goes into the rail easement, makes a right-hand turn, and goes to a 24-inch located in 3rd. We've confirmed that that pipe actually does do that in 2 ways. One, we worked with the DPW staff and we went out to the site. We actually did a dye test. We made sure that we poured the dye, biodegradable, environmentally safe dye that went into the inlet, and we made sure we witnessed it in the connection on 3rd. That confirmed the connection because it was not clear to us because the transit documentation wasn't clear that it was there. Subsequent to that, the transit actually provided us with some additional documentation to confirm what we found. So we know the storm water is going currently to the rail, making a right, and ultimately connecting to the 24-inch that's in 3rd. So what we're proposing to do is we're proposing to put a detention basin within a vault, under the garage. The detention basin is going to be roughly 30 foot by 40 foot vault that's going to have roughly 2.5 foot of water maximum within it. That's going to throttle back the storm water. We're not really increasing the impervious coverage here that much, but we are providing reductions to the wherever we are increasing the impervious coverage. So what's leaving the site today is going to be reduced. This 30-foot by 40-foot vault is going to basically throttle back the water and let it out slower. So at any given time, the rate of runoff will be less in the proposed condition than it is today. The site's going to be serviced by water connections off of 3rd. There's going to be a fire and a domestic connection. There was a comment about some fire flow requirements in your planning board's engineer's report. We're going to, let me just touch on that a second. We're going to be providing your planning board engineer with a point-by-point response. A number of these things that you had in your report, I'm going to touch on direct, but some of them I feel that we got to work out some technical issues and have it resolved hopefully by the next meeting. So I'm hoping to handle some of this in direct, and whatever I don't get to tonight, I want to make sure that, you know, we are going to cover it in a letter to the engineer. So technically we can say we agreed on 80% of it and we need to discuss 10. So that's our goal. I just wanted to bring that out before I forgot.
If you're covering one of the items in the letter, could you let us know which item it is?
I was doing it by direct. Why I hate doing it this way, because it's so much easier. Yes, I'd rather do it when we have a response letter that I can go through it point by point, because it'd be very clumsy to do it this way, and actually it will take a lot more time, I think. So let me prepare the letter. He'll have it within 2 days, and then, you know, by Wednesday he'll have it. Let's move on to site lighting. The slide is C301, lighting plan. It took us a lot of time to find a light that looks very similar to the lights that you have. You have a lot of gas-fired lights. We found one we think is very, very, very similar. We can match the color. If you look at the detail, it appears very close to what you have out there. We're also looking at using an LED type light. You have pedestrian plazas, you have sidewalks. Standards have changed over the years. We want to make sure we provide adequate lighting. But they are going to look extremely similar in height, in color, and in style. And that was not easy to do. we had to make a lot of phone calls to find that particular light. And we think we did a really good job. The proposed light's going to include 11 lights along the street. I'm going to defer to the architect about any mounted lights or landscape lighting. This plan deals primarily with the lighting along 3rd and Valley. And there is a note on the plan that indicates that all courtyard areas will be lit to the applicable code requirement. That's a building code type issue, and I'll defer to the architect. But we wanted to note on the plans that we have every intention to meet every code that's applicable. The lighting plan was designed to try and, you know, complement the landscape architecture's plan for the streetscape. We worked and we moved lights around to try to accommodate the driveways. We think we did a good job. I think you're going to have a really nice streetscape with the lighting and with the plaza, which you'll hear a little more later. And I think the lighting is not going to be overwhelming either. I think it's going to look really good. Now, with respect to the lighting, it's important to note that, again, you know, there are standards to be met. We're going to not affect any kind of, if there's a traffic light out there that's currently lighting an existing intersection, we're not going to take that down. There's just too much to do that. Once you, especially have a gooseneck of some sort that's lighting an intersection, normally you leave those in place. It's too much to try to light an intersection with these lights unless you're doing the entire both sides of the street in all 4 points of the intersection. And that kind of segues us into traffic. I'm just going to go over traffic and go over it very quickly. We prepared a traffic report. Well, first we conducted counts on Thursday, February 21st, 2013. We conducted those counts at 6:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. and from 3:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. We also conducted it on Saturday, February 23rd, 2013, from 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. The reason why we did Saturday is that there is a retail component here. While we don't expect much traffic with the retail component, because it's more of a downtown type retail use, we had to do an impact associated with the potential retail. And the peak for retail is Saturday morning, and the peak for residential tend to be to and from work, which is those 6:30 to 9 in the morning and from 3:30 to 6 at night. We studied Valley at 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Streets. We also studied 3rd and Sloan, and we studied 3rd and Academy. What we have found is that because this is a transit type development, one of the goals of this development is to promote the use of the trains and mass transportation. That's why we think that these developments are so smart and work so well. But even with that being said, when we ran the analysis, we ran the initial analysis and submitted the study on April 22nd, 2013. And we did find a small impact on Valley and 3rd from the proposed development. It was not significant, and I'm not going to go into all the details because we ended up meeting with the county. And this goes upon your question. Hopefully I get it in direct. When we did our initial analysis, we only recommended, you know what a timing change on an analysis, basically it's a longer green. Well, we didn't know if it could have more than one cycle. We didn't have the information on the infrastructure on Valley and 3rd. So we submitted the report and we followed up with the county. We finally had an opportunity to have our second meeting with the correct person at the county. And he had informed us subsequent to our report that we could have multiple green times on it. So what we did is we reissued a report on May 23rd, which found that we could dramatically reduce the impacts. In some ways, we've actually improved it because now we were able to have the timing change depending on the direction of traffic. So the greens could be longer in one direction when the predominant traffic flows in that direction, and then switch over when it's in another direction. Now, we had no idea we could do that when we did the initial analysis, because some of the more, we found out that this particular intersection is roughly 45 years old, and so we were kind of happy to find out that it could handle those phasing. But the problem was, like I said, we didn't have that detail when we first did the initial analysis. But what we concluded was that with the retiming of Valley and 3rd, we're having very little to no impact. And in the traffic report, we go through the delays of the various, with the build and no build. And we are really, with the intersection could use the improvement whether we build the application or not. The timing is going to improve it greatly. And one of the things that the county brought up, we did have a meeting with the county because Valley is a county road. They wanted us to add pedestrian signals on Valley and 3rd. Well, when we finally had a chance to meet with the fellow that oversees most of the traffic signals in Essex County, it was found that we could not upgrade the existing infrastructure to have pedestrian signals without basically replacing the entire intersection. Not only that, it was funny because I understand the village does not want to touch their crosswalks. I think they're great. The brick crosswalks have so much character. So the county wanted us to upgrade the pedestrian handicap or barrier-free ramps. And we said that instead of doing that in piecemeal, you know, because we really can't do it halfway. You can't put the ramps in without doing the signals. it doesn't make sense to have, you have ramps out there now, they're just not all up to date. We recommended that we would bond for what we would estimate the cost of putting the signals in, if it could accommodate it, and the traffic ramps. And we estimated that at about $25,000, which is roughly 10% of a cost of a new intersection. So what we're recommending is bonding that to the county, so when they finally do upgrade that intersection, this project has provided its fair share of that upgrade. We're not impacting the intersection to warrant a replacement of the entire intersection. It's just not warranted under this application. So that, I hope that answers your question. So that kind of moves us on to the variances. Yes.
Before you pull away from traffic.
Yes.
Do you have a full-blown traffic study
Yes.
on here, on the intersection with
Michael.
left? Do you have a full-blown traffic study here with left turns and so
Yes.
forth? I mean, you're talking about, we haven't seen it.
We submitted 2 traffic studies.
Right.
2 copies.
No.
No.
2 separate reports.
Two
The
separate.
initial report and a supplemental report.
We have, I have not seen the traffic study, because that's one of my questions
get it.
about left turn lanes and the diamond that you're putting in on Third.
So we need to, Eddie, we need to have that distributed to the board before the next meeting. Did anyone get that? Did any board get that? No.
Oh, how many copies do you want? I know we.
We'll tell you, enough for the full board.
Nobody, I mean, I think we put in 21.
The professional saw it. You saw it, Eric, right?
I have it, yes.
And Susan?
We submitted 21 full copies of the report, and then when we made a resubmission, then there was a supplemental on the 23rd, 22nd or 23rd, a letter, right? The supplement was a letter with...
So there's some, we'll have to find them somewhere.
No, I'll send you new copies.
Or we can check with your secretary tomorrow if she's located them to distribute. If not, we'll submit the number that you advise us.
Okay. Continue.
That's, I apologize. Must seem like I'm glossing over this if you didn't see the
Well,
report.
you're going, excuse me, but you're going through this, I mean, we're gonna go back to some sheets with questions.
Sure.
So maybe, it might be better if we stopped at each sheet so we can answer if there's any questions on it.
No, 'cause we'll follow with Eric as well, so let's go through it.
Yes, well, one of the things that the traffic analysis did identify,
Keep your list. Take forever.
referring to sheet C102. Site plan. We did identify the need for a left-hand turn lane coming into the garage. Right, as we are designing it, and it's shown on the plans, it fits within the existing curb-to-curb without any physical modifications. That is designed to accommodate the lefts going into the garage. And I apologize, it must be difficult for you to have questions if you did not have an opportunity to review the report. But I will be back next week if you guys want to review the report first, because I could see the frowns on your face.
Don't worry about it.
Okay. Okay, so the traffic report did identify the need for the left-hand turn lane, and it did identify with the retiming of Valley and Third that the project will have a de minimis impact. The delays were outlined in the report. When you get the report, please go through those and review them. The delays are outlined in tables within it's very easy to follow within the report.
We keep referring to the report. Do we, perhaps that's one of the things that we should make sure is marked as part of the record as well as the supplement.
Do you have copies?
I don't have a full copy of the appendices. It's pretty thick with the appendices.
All right, we can mark that. I actually do, but I'd have to sit and peel all my little stickies off of it from my notes. Unless there's one, is that the one unpresented?
Excuse me, sir. You mentioned you put in a left turn lane into the garage.
Yes.
What anticipated backup do you have that's forcing you or suggesting that you need a left turn lane into the garage, narrowing literally third in that case down to like one lane? When we did the analysis, the 95 percentile, basically we expect 5% of the time for the queuing. We modeled it so that it will be within the accommodated lane. So the lane is designed to handle the occurrence at the 5% level, meaning it's pretty rare. That's the heaviest time. So it should be, the left-hand turn queuing should be all within the left-hand turn lane.
And that's including the public parking, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, let's wait till the report. Let's not dwell on the traffic study since we don't have it. We can catch up.
Okay. Going through just going through some of the technical aspects of the variances that were, or waivers that were noted.
Okay.
There was a waiver being requested for a 23-foot drive aisle within the garage where there's 8.5 by 18 stalls being provided. The redevelopment plan requires 24 feet. There was also where there's 8 foot by 16 foot stalls being provided. A 23-foot aisle was being provided in those areas. Again, 24 was required. You'll hear later from the garage designer that this is pretty common within garages to have these types of dimensions. The terraces, which I touched on briefly, again, I'll highlight on C102. The terraces on 3rd Avenue basically are recessed below 3rd Avenue. They are not at grade. At one side of it, I should say, is at grade, and the side towards Valley is recessed roughly 6 to 7 feet. The other thing that was brought up, those were the waivers that we had mentioned. There was a variance noted within your planner's report potentially for the amount of courtyard or open area. We did a calculation. If you look, she had mentioned in her report that roughly 11,761 feet would be required to meet the ordinance requirement. Well, between the courtyard and the center of the building, which you'll hear about more later, and their amenities, and the plaza located on the corner of 3rd and Valley, and also the plaza outside, you are exceeding. We have roughly 12,500 square feet.
I would ask if you could submit those calculations so we can confirm.
Okay,
Thanks.
yes, I will. There were also 2 other waivers noted in the planner's report, which I'll just mention and defer to the architect. There was a percent of glazing in the retail. I'm not even going to claim to be able to answer that, but I just felt I should mention it. In the private terraces on Valley. Again, I will defer to the architect and/or landscape architect on that. Those are noted in the planner's report, and I just thought it was worth mentioning. Some of the other approvals that we're going to have to go and receive as part of this project is obviously we need county planning board. We have submitted to the county planning board. We have met with them. We've gotten some feedback from them. We've also received approval from the Hudson, Essex, and Passaic Soil Conservation District. And we have to submit, like I mentioned before, to the DEP for both water and sewer. And we're obviously going to need a county road opening permit and a village road opening permit when we actually do the construction. That's basically my direct, and I was wondering.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Somebody just mentioned to me. We have met with New Jersey Transit as part of this project. We have to reconfigure. Again, I'm referring to sheet C102. There is a portion of the rail abutment that comes in front of the building, and it used to be associated with an old siding that was there years and years ago. We've met with Transit and talking to them about basically taking a portion of that wall off and cutting it back, matching the construction. We got positive feedback from Transit on that. It is pretty obvious when you look at the grading of the embankment that abutment was there for a siding that's no longer in use. And we're also talking to Transit about the construction that's going to occur along the right-of-way. There are provisions that we need to adhere to with clearances to the catenaries, which are the electrical lines. There's also requirements that we need to do about working within a certain distance of the rail, not to what they call foul the rail. We need to coordinate all those efforts with Transit. And I just got handed something. Okay. That's as Transit moves forward, we're obviously going to be working with the planning board engineer and the town engineer, because there's going to be some nuances about how we handle Transit when it comes to construction, when it comes to the intermediate phases.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Eric, since he's going to answer most of those in a letter to you, is there, how do you want to handle, I thought you did an excellent review of the project, by the way.
Thank you.
Board, would you like? Would you like to let it go until we get the responses, or would you like Eric to run through his points of comment quickly, or what's your feeling?
Let him run through his points of comment, and then if we have questions, not about the traffic, about other issues.
Since it's not going to be rebutted or anything, do you want to just maybe take us through your review in some kind of a? What do you think?
I think a lot of these were, he's addressed in some degree through his testimony. Others he prepared detailed responses. I'm with Mr. Iannelli. I don't necessarily want to go through every one point by point, because the board's time can be spent better on other things. I would like him to clarify a couple of things.
Okay.
That I did not hear, and I think would be relevant to the board would like to may like to hear. One question: would you be the person to ask a question on about the phase one?
I'm familiar with it, so you can ask it. If I feel comfortable, I will answer.
Okay. The one point, and it covered a lot of things. The one past use that I saw in the report that raised the question for me was the fact that it was a lumber yard and coal yard. Having some experience myself with those, did you do any soil excavations to determine the presence of historic fill?
There is an NFA, no further action letter, issued that is unrestricted, both for soil and that was part of the prior cleanup. So the whole site has an NFA for groundwater and soil. We can provide you a copy with that. That should answer it. For them to get an NFA on the soil, it had to come back pretty much unrestricted, and it's got to come back clean.
I mean, if you can provide that to the board and us, that would be helpful.
Sure.
One of the, you touched on the drainage and where it goes off-site, and I'd like to see some of the information you got from Transit, because that may help us understand and address one of the points in there. Can you talk about what the thought process was and the issues you've dealt with, the stormwater management of the site, but what are you doing on the south side of the site? You have, excuse me, two inlets very close in the southwestern portion of the site, and then there's nothing from those two private terraces out to Valley Road. You have a fairly narrow area between the building and the adjacent property, and there's some decent slope there. And I'm just a little concerned about erosion through there if we get a bigger storm.
Your point is well taken. We do have a drainage system that basically is in those terraces on the south side. We also extended a drainage line along a portion of the perimeter of the south side. What we would probably recommend in that area as we finalize the design is use area inlets, smaller, because there's not much water's draining that area. It's just what falls between the buildings, to be honest with you. So we can use an ADS type drainage area inlet, and that will be no problem to pick up that area.
That's my main concern is I don't want to have nothing for 200 feet. Even though it's a limited area, there may be some runoff from the adjacent properties.
I concur, and we'll add that.
Okay, thank you. Transformers and public services.
How did I miss that one? We have,
which is a two-part question. One is their existing facilities, and the second is the proposed transformers for the building.
Well, we have had multiple meetings with PSE&G. This is considered an overhead area by PSE&G, and their preference, and I use that lightly, it's kind of, when they say preference, it's, you know, you're dealing with the PSE&G, it's what they want, is they like pad-mounted transformers. And we had gone to extensive lengths to try to accommodate, you know, what we knew the board would be concerned with when it comes to the appearance and the idea of trying to accommodate PSE&G's requests. Now, the surface transformers that are currently being proposed are proposed in the front. I'm going to refer to C300 again. I'll get it up on board for you in a minute. If you look, I can highlight it on the board for you. Wow, look at that. We're proposing to put it in the plaza, the two transformers, pad mounted and screened. Believe me, this did not happen easily. We went through a lot of back and forth with PSE&G. The requirements are pretty clear, and the vault is, we're having a lot of trouble putting vaults in anywhere these days. We just went through a project in Morristown where JCP&L absolutely said no. You know,
that's JCP&L. They don't like underground.
But PSE&G is not too different when it comes to the vaults. They prefer pad mounted. This is valuable space they're giving up. They don't want to lose the space. They're going to provide, they're not going to spend all this money on this building and have this thing pop out. They're going to screen it, and the architect's going to go into how they're going to screen it. I think if you could have heard the discussions and the dialogue that went on about this, it went on. And believe me, this is the last place that they wanted to put the transformers, but it was the best place. And the architect will go into the screening about and what they've done to try to really address your concerns about the pad mount.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I can suggest to the board is that, you consider, make it known that your preference, if that is your preference, is to put them underground, but obviously they have to defer to what public service will agree to. But if that's your preference, at least give the best effort to try and do that. But having dealt with utility companies myself, it's not a democratic process. I have other questions from his testimony, but I will hold off and let the board. Those are the only points I wanted to highlight in my review letter from Mr. Iannelli. I give it back to the board.
Okay, thank you. Board, did you have any questions of this witness that you'd like to raise?
I have some questions.
Go ahead, Mark.
Going back to the lighting, you talk about the lights that you're going to be putting on 3rd and Street and Valley Street. Are you planning on, this is added lighting to what's already there, the street lights, or are you planning on replacing the street lights?
Oh, no, all the street lights are coming down, and the new street lights are going up.
Okay, so you're putting up new street lights, and did you talk to the village engineer about using the same ones we use, the electric lights we already have on Valley and South Orange Avenue?
I have no problem. We tried to get an LED version. I can talk to them. It doesn't
Well, you
take-
should talk to the village engineer, they may have an LED version of that anyway, because
Okay.
I think we would prefer that they match the ones that are already on Valley Street and South Orange Avenue, rather than go to a whole new design.
Even though we appreciate your research.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
And I actually think that Sal, who's unfortunately not here tonight, the village engineer, has done a lot of research on lights for other streets that we're looking at, so he may have some of the information on it. The bike path in back, which won't really be a bike path operational initially, but that's going to be an open space of 8 or 9 feet wide or something.
Well, the building is set back 15 feet from the right.
So are you going to have lighting back there coming off the garage to that? Will there be lighting off the building to the path there? I'm just afraid of people walking back there.
I was just told that it's going to be all pre-wired for the lighting for when the bike path goes in.
Okay,
So-
but even if the bike path doesn't go in, is that going to be blocked off until a bike path goes in? or
Yeah,
is-
basically, you're not going to be able to get back there because you have the building and then you
Okay.
have the garage doesn't have pedestrian access to the back.
And the lighting on the other side, on the south side of the building that faces residents that are over there, although I think there's only one resident, I think the rest are commercial buildings. Is there lighting on that side of the building too, or is that side remaining basically dark?
There will be a minimal amount of lighting in that area. There are some private patios there. There's also some
There's just going to be
security
minimal
lighting.
lighting, nothing flowing over into their property?
There's going to be security lighting.
Okay.
You can't have a dark alley, you know.
No, I understand that, but it's not going to be, okay, I just want to make sure.
there's
Okay.
no-
Is it shown on the elevations?
Yeah, it's more of the architectural wall packs that's going to be addressing those lighting, but I'd imagine they're just going to be security
Okay.
related.
All right,
It's on the building, Mark. So
that's it for now.
Michael.
Can you explain the loading? You have it marked in the garage, you have an arrow showing loading, I can't tell how it's working.
C300 is up on the board. What's hard to understand here, and it'll make a little more sense when you see the garage plans, is this is actually an overhang. The building has beneath there's a second level, and beneath that second level, there is lanes and openness, and there's gates and everything else. So when you see that area there, it'll be a lot more clear. I think it'll be an easier thing for you to understand. If you still have a question after you review the garage plans, feel free to ask, but I think it'll be much clearer.
Are you going to go through the garage plans with the aisle lifts and the stall lifts?
The garage designer is going to do that.
Okay.
Anything else, board?
Yeah, a couple questions. The traffic stuff I'll hold off on. As far as lighting goes, this may be a better question for the architect, but I'm just curious to learn a little bit more and discuss what some of the other lighting elements might be on the building, for example, or in the retail spaces or outside of the retail spaces. If there's going to be any outdoor patio dining kind of accommodations? Is there going to be any lighting that would improve that streetscape? I don't know if that's better for you or better for the architect.
It would be better for the architect.
Okay. And as far as the drainage is concerned, I would assume that you're aware, especially after discussing with Public Works, some of the drainage issues that obviously exist on 3rd Street, basically where the train trestle is. The basin or vault that you described, do you feel that that's going to adequately accommodate or mitigate any of the drainage problems that we sometimes have in heavy rainfall?
All I can tell you is that we're going to reduce the rate of runoff from our site. I can't say we're going to cure more than that. I mean, honestly, right now the site's got an X amount of water leaving it, and we're going to slow it down. So it can only help the situation. We're not changing the timing. We're not changing the peak runoff rates. So if that kind of answers your question, because I can't really comment on the problem. I mean, I could talk to Sal and see if he feels that we can accommodate this a little better. But the drainage as designed does meet the standards for the project.
Yeah, I guess my 2 questions would be, one is the decrease that you're talking about. Is it 0.01% or is it 10%? One might be enough to mitigate any of the concerns that we have, and the other might not be. So if there's any way to get a little bit better of an idea of what that might be, that would be great. And I think speaking to Sal would be excellent. I know I would certainly appreciate that. We've certainly had problems with that area before. As you know, it's kind of a valley there, and there's a lot of drains in that area that seem to back up, and I don't know if that's a problem that we need to fix, or if there's an opportunity now with the work that you'll be doing to actually substantially reduce some of those problems. So if there is that opportunity, I'd be really interested to know a little more about that.
I will reach out to Sal and I'll discuss it with him. We're committed to doing a vault. So once you commit to doing a vault, whether it's a little more, a little less. So let me talk to them and see if there's something I can, come back to you at the next meeting with, or maybe even issue a letter prior to the meeting.
That would be great, thank you. And the last question I had was just if you perhaps can elaborate maybe a little bit more on what some of the concerns from Public Service were as far as underground utilities. Was it just the cost, or did they have, when you met with them, what did they express to you as their concerns with doing underground utilities at this location?
It's a combination of accessibility, the different types of transformers you have to use, because it's got to be submersible. I mean, they could actually go in the water. It becomes more complicated, and the vaults get very big, and they're harder. In some ways, you got to have full access to them too. Where the pad mounted, they go and they can pick up with a crane. You're seeing a lot of utility companies push back from a lot of the vaults. We even try to place it, I just mentioned about the garage having an overhang. We tried to put it where the entrance of the garage is, which would be under the under the overhang, and they flat out said no. So it is not. It's their preference. I can tell you, we've talked to them about it quite a bit, and like I said, if the applicant, this is their courtyard, this is the front of their building. They don't necessarily want to do this, and they're doing it because they're kind of getting pushed into a corner, and they're going to screen it. They're not going to make this to be an eyesore. Not where they're putting it. Let's see if you hear from the architect about what the screening is going to be, because if it looks like the building facade and it's behind something, maybe it's a non-issue.
Good point.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that's board. You've done. Susan, you have anything to add?
One question about emergency generators, and whether you're proposing any emergency generators with everything that's gone on in these 1-year, 100-year storms.
They are considering it, but it's something that is it's not required, and it's a good point.
No, it's not required, but most applications that I've seen of this nature in these kinds of situations have provided for at least minimal, maybe not for every apartment to be relit as such, but
let me have a little time to talk with our client and discuss, what minimal means. Maybe there's something we can accommodate, and I can come back with a much more a full answer versus just guessing.
Water. Michael.
I noticed on the
Thank you,
plans,
Susan.
you're going to plan on making some cuts on 3rd Avenue to make connections and so forth?
Yes.
Are you going to repave the entire road when you're done?
The plan was right now to saw cut. I don't think there would be an objection to milling from the crown in, because I think that's fair, because there's going to be cuts all around, so they don't want it to look like patchwork anyway.
Correct.
So
That's what I'm concerned with. Anytime you cut it and patch it, it's never the same.
The cost differential of milling from the center line over is de minimis, because you're out there cutting trenches, you got to pave half of it anyway, so we'll pave over from the center line over on Third.
We
Sounds
just
good.
note that they've agreed to do that.
Anybody else on the board? Ma'am, at this point, if you have a question about the traffic study, Ms. Chirvis? But if she had a question, she could ask it, even though we're not aware. You could also come back next month, but I would say that you should do it now. Sit down then, if you want. Okay.
I live on Joan Tublitz. I live
Right.
in the Mews on 3rd Street. There are times that the traffic is so horrendous on 3rd Street that it goes all the way from Valley, under the bridge, and to Church Street almost. And the same in the opposite direction. If a car decides to make a left turn from 3rd to Valley, then nobody gets through the light. And going uphill to Ridgewood, it's impossible to turn because nobody gives you a way to turn. Now, I live there, and there are times I can't get to my own house because of the traffic on 3rd that is existent now. And what's happened is, since you fixed South Orange Avenue into one lane, people come across down South Orange Avenue, across Ridgewood, down 3rd Street, up to Prospect, and then cut back to South Orange Avenue. They cut out South Orange Avenue, and the same in the reverse, so that we have come to be a street the same as South Orange Avenue. We have so much traffic at certain hours that I can't get in and out, and I can't make plans to do something because I don't know whether I'll be stalled in traffic. And I don't know when he says that these few cars are going to affect us.
Make sure you're speaking into the
They
microphone.
aren't, but we can't.
Well, we
Main road now.
we're all aware,
Turning a town into a city.
we're aware of the traffic.
When I moved there, it was nice and quiet. And they built the gas line.
You got to keep the microphone by your mouth.
Keep the mic.
But your consideration is mostly commuters. And there are other people living in these places. Maybe we aren't many, but there should be some consideration given. 3rd Street is horrible at certain hours.
Okay, we're going to
I
let,
don't know if any of you have ever taken it.
well, we're all aware of it, where a lot of us are commuters, we see the traffic on 3rd Street.
Really bad.
But we're going to address this again in the next meeting, and then you can also give us your comments if you'd like, and thank you for your
I
time.
have no objection to the place if there's some way you can widen the street.
We're going to look at the study that the applicant has prepared and use our judgment as well with that additional. So thank you very much for your time.
I had to say something.
Of course.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else from the public with any questions, actually, for the applicant? No?
Yes.
Okay, Elise. Questions now. You know how it goes here.
I know how it goes.
All right.
My question is about the height.
Of the engineer, that he didn't address the height of the building yet.
Okay.
The architect will speak to the height of the building.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. One more.
Sorry, I do actually have one more question as far as lighting goes. That's probably more appropriate for you than the architect. As far as the trestle on 3rd Street, is there an opportunity as part of this project to work with transit in improving the lighting underneath that? Right now, we have a lot of problems with that lighting. I know they did a little bit of repair work. There were some circuits that were loose and the lights were going out, and underneath that structure at night was, basically pitch black. But the lights are kind of your typical, they're not particularly great. And with this project coming online, I'd love to see an improvement to the entire area for people that are walking underneath that. So I just would ask if there's an opportunity there with transit to do some more aesthetically pleasing lighting, or to work on, if there's any electrical work going on underneath the trestle anyway, or nearby, if there's an opportunity to improve or fix some of the problems that we've identified with them in the past.
We will absolutely, in our dealings with transit, I will bring that up. That's a great point.
Thank you.
Maybe they can do South Orange Avenue too. All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I did have a couple more I wanted to.
All right.
Just to build on what Mr. Torpy raised about the drainage, one of the comments we made in our review letter was examining those existing pipes that you intend on reusing for your drainage, about videotaping them to make sure that they're not clogged or broken. Is that something that the applicant would agree to?
Yes.
Okay, good. One thing, you're going to talk to Sal about the lights that the village is already using. If for whatever reason they can't be used, I would suggest that you match the color, because with LED lights, color is very important. You can get a very harsh white light, and I don't think that's something that would be in keeping with what the village wants to see.
They'll get the right temperature.
I will definitely coordinate that with Sal.
And maybe this goes back to the architect, but you raised the point, or brought up the point about the refuse truck would back into the loading area.
I said it may back in. It will depend. It will depend on. This is going to be private haul. And all I'm saying, it can be accommodated, but the reality is it's got to be done at an off-peak time. I mean, so this is I've even seen facilities like this that have a garbage truck that they have basically the containers roll out and they pick them up. If there's a preference that the village has, it has to be kept inside. But the haulers are going to ultimately dictate that in some way, because they're containers, they're trucks. But I just want you to know it can be accommodated.
And the truck, when it pulled in, backed in, if it enters the building, there's enough depth that it doesn't block the sidewalk?
It's completely recessed within the building.
All right. One last question. I notice on the site distance exhibit, you stated that the site distance was measured 8 feet back of the curb line.
Yes.
Typically, the publications say 15 feet back. If you go back further, does a railroad abutment?
Well, 15 foot, we should double check that, because like the county standards is 8 feet from the traveled way. Basically, you got to think about a downtown area and how vehicles actually operate. They pull out of a garage, they accommodate the pedestrians, and they pull to the curb, and they basically accommodate the traffic. It's pretty typical in a downtown area that if you've driven through a building, you have a building edge next to you, the first thing you do is you make sure you have pedestrian clearance, and you pull a little more, and you get to that traveled way, and you want to make sure you can see the pedestrian. They're not going to be pulling out of this garage without first accommodating the pedestrian traffic. And then
Understood. My concern is that with you putting a left turn lane in the road, that puts the through traffic on 3rd Street closer to the curb line than it would be today. And with an eye location 8 feet back to the curb line, that puts the nose of the car almost at the curb line.
I can move that back if you like.
If there's adequate sight distance, then fine. It wasn't on the plan, so I wanted to make sure that
we will double check
that they don't need to go all the way to the curb line to be able to see an adequate distance.
No, you absolutely have more than 8 feet. I don't think I have 15, but I'll give you the distance. I'll make sure it's adequate.
That's all I want to make sure.
He touched on the big point. The tough point is when you're pulling out of that garage and you want to make a left turn, is that the trestle is blocking your view of cars coming. That's the tricky part.
Not as much as you think, because you're.
I've done it enough times to know it's as much as I
think.
Right,
but you have the trestle there, but you're going to pull out of a garage. The garage has got a 0 setback. So your first thing you do like any downtown area, you pull forward and negotiate the pedestrians.
I know, it's tricky already. I know, I know it's not gonna change. It's not gonna be any less hard or more hard because of this garage.
Right.
But that's the difficult part right now. And it's actually tougher for the cars driving in the morning, especially with the sun glare. It's almost impossible for them to see when they come out of the trestle. The sun smacks them in the morning at certain times of the year, but I don't think there's anything we can do about that.
Well, are you suggesting that perhaps there should be a no left turn out of the garage?
Because probably 80% of the cars go to the left. I don't know how you quite deal with that, and we don't have an easy wraparound, you know.
That's why you almost need a full traffic.
We don't have a, you know.
Once you have an opportunity to review the
But-
traffic report, but my hesitation about precluding lefts out of the garage is then you're sending everybody to Valley and Third.
Well, we'll look to that report.
You know, so why don't you read the report if there's comments?
Okay.
We'll be more than happy to address it.
Fine.
Thank you. Our board, thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Who is your next witness?
Our architect?
Your architect or your parking garage guy? Well, either way, I was going to take a 5-minute break, and then you can think which one you want, because we tend to stop at around 10. But if you think we can go to, if you have a sense of how long it'll be, I was thinking maybe the architect would be the next time. But let's take our 5-minute break. We'll be back. 5-minute board.
Thank you.
I just left 2 days ago. All right, good. Thank you and welcome back to the meeting board. We're live. Thank you. Okay. All right, we can continue now. Thank you.
Can we have...
Tom,
Yes, Mike.
I gather you're just discussing what we might get through tonight. Can I get a sense? Can we get a sense of what
It
that
seems
might
we
be?
are going to attempt to get through the architectural portion of the presentation, and then we will do, at the next meeting, we will do landscape and garage, and probably revisit the engineering response. This,
Thank you.
okay.
Can you provide the board with your name, and we'll ask that you be sworn?
Sure. Brian Edward O'Looney.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give here this evening is the whole truth?
Yes.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Brian Edward O'Looney.
How do you spell that?
B-R-I-A-N, Edward, E-D-W-A-R-D, O'Looney, O', capital L, O-O-N-E-Y.
Thank you.
Address is 1300 Spring Street, Silver Spring, Maryland.
Can you provide the board with information regarding the company with which you're associated, your position with the company, and licenses that you hold?
I'm a principal with Torty Gallison Partners, and I am licensed in New Jersey, Maryland, Connecticut, and Washington, D.C.
Great. And how long have you been practicing the field of architecture?
Around 24 years.
Okay. And have you ever appeared and offered testimony in support of an application?
Yes.
And have you offered testimony before in New Jersey?
No.
So this is our newbie, but you are licensed in this state? Okay. We would ask that on the basis of his work experience and his license that he be accepted as an expert in the field of architecture.
We do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We're just going to mark the 3 sample boards, which are the only things up here. The glasses and the pen. All right, the only thing that we are going to mark for this witness, besides what's already as part of A1, are the 3 sample boards. Mr. Dwyer, what are we up to?
I got 4.
Okay, so we're on A5.
No, I think this is 4.
This is 4? Okay.
Right, Jetty?
Yes. Okay, you do it. Just A dash in your order. And when he gets to them in his presentation, we'll simply ask that he explain what it is that he's marked and distinguish them for you. And with that, I'm going to ask you to start so we can move quickly.
Very good. Thank you all. It's exciting to be here tonight to finally talk about this project with you. We've been thinking about this site and really intently working on it. You're not hearing it?
There you go.
Is this better?
Yeah.
So when we began looking at the site, it was part of the RFP process, and we studied your redevelopment plan, and we saw a number of guiding design principles which are on this wall for you to look at today. These led our design into the project. The first, you asked for a well-designed integrated mixed-use development. You also asked for careful consideration of the context, a transition between the core and the neighborhoods, a pedestrian scale along the facades. You asked us to address the terminal view at the end of Sloane Street. You wanted the garage wrapped so that no part of it was exposed to 3rd and Valley Streets. High quality, broad-based residential, and expanded parking for commuters. This is the site. It's already been talked to a bunch already, so I'll move forward in recognition of your time. One thing we wanted to talk about with you today was that in designing the project, we recognize that this jurisdiction, more than most we work in, has a very high level of consideration of architectural design. In particular, the hierarchy between civic buildings, public buildings, and residential buildings is carefully orchestrated. and considered in your public realm. And we took that into account in the design of our building. These are your civic buildings here. Next slide shows many of your commercial establishments with a couple residential ones over in the lower left-hand corner of the slide. What we want to show you here is that your core has very hard public realm in that the sidewalk, as you know, the buildings are right up. There's not a lot of landscape or green space between the buildings and the curb. We really just have sidewalk surfaces there. Whereas in your residential areas, over here to the east of our proposed project, the frontage is softened, and there's usually 15 to 25 feet of landscaping between the building face and the sidewalk. And so what our project does is actually transitions between these two scales and these two kinds of frontages. And so when we designed the project, we took this into to heart in the way the building's designed, in the way that it fronts the street, in the way that there are hard pieces that come close to the sidewalk and places where it sets back, and a corner that talks to the gateway you described in your prior redevelopment plans, multiple redevelopment plans actually. And these steps, these ins and outs, help to transition from where it's mostly soft to where it's really kind of hard in terms of your downtown core. And so these are some of the residential frontages, but on the right is where a transition is not done particularly well. This is right across the street from our project on Valley Street. You can see here is your civic core frontage, sidewalk right to the hard part of the building face with the retail there. And then right next door, not well transitioned, is the setback frontage, the more residential frontage. What we tried to do is transition between the two in our project. So this is looking south along Valley Street. This is the current view with the house that's turned into a commercial establishment to our south, looking at the current state of the parking lot and empty lots there. And this is the same view with the new building brought in. And again, you can see that some of the forms that we put in the foreground on Valley Street are more residential in shape and character and scale. The building steps down to Valley and emulates our adjacent neighbors to extend and be a way of growing from the more residential character to the east and to the core to the north. This is a view looking south along Valley Street. Here again, this is a view towards the current empty parking lot, and this is the same view with the building incorporating the Gateway Plaza at the front here, showing how the entrance is marked by this tower element to celebrate the fact that this is the main entrance to the building. We've also, we're going to spill out the retail tenant onto that plaza. Ideally, if we land a cafe tenant, that cafe tenant could put cafe tables and chairs into that plaza and make it powerful and lovely. Perhaps they could spill out towards Valley Street as well. Just to show you, the current design is no different really from what we proposed in the RFP. We believe in following through on our promises from a design perspective, and this is what we said we'd do, and I think we're coming pretty close to it. Again, one of your requirements or one of your desires was to have a building element terminating the view of Sloane Street. This is the current view at the end of Sloane Street. You have 2 doors for a paramedic squad there and a front door for the squad building. What we plan on doing is terminating the view with a tower element that is the pedestrian access to the garage. So you come across this crosswalk here, and you walk into this element that again terminates the center of the street here down Stone. So when you come out of the train station, you'll see this element. You'll know where you need to go to find your car and your parking. In order to do this, as Mr. Anelli described, we will need to cut away a little bit of the retaining wall that comes down from the old siding here. So that will get cut away to achieve the redevelopment plan's goals of putting that terminating element at the end of Sloane. This is the ground floor plan of the building, ground floor being the floor that grades into Valley Street. Again, there's a 20-plus grade differential between the high point on Valley and the low point down where that entrance is to the garage, the pedestrian entrance to the garage. We've terraced the building in order to take advantage of that and to hide a lot of the density on the site. In this floor here, we have the retail tenant here, the main entrance to the residential building here, and when you come off this plaza, you can come into our lobby, and what we hope you'll see is right into the courtyard. So this lobby experience will be wonderful and fantastic, and people will hopefully want to live here and be part of your greater community. The retail space here will open out onto the plaza and open up onto Valley. Most retailers, as you know, have a front of house and a back of house. Part of the challenge with this is that where do we locate the back of house? And when we had to put the transformers in, we realized there was a way of using that to create a little backcourt space that could become the service area for the retail tenant. So that again, we felt that that this zone was closer and again, as your gateway, part of the experience going down towards the core, and we wanted to activate that with the cafe seating. From the lobby area, there will be steps down to the club room on the lower level and a fitness room on the ground floor level, again, to activate the frontages along Valley Street. There are a couple tenants here that come out to a terrace. This terrace, I think, can be at the height required in the plans. I'm not sure that we would need an exception for this particular terrace, but we will leave that determination up to the board and their professional staff. Again, this is the next floor down, so what we've done is we've terraced into the hill. So we're dug in here, we get an extra floor of residential that you really don't see from the outside because it's hidden into the ground. But it does flush out at grade at this point here. So for those people who live in this community, they can come down this stair and walk directly to the train station every morning, come back, come in here on a rainy day, come into the building, walk up the stair, and go to their unit, and have a truly active lifestyle as part of a walkable town. We have also achieved more than the required 10% open space on the site, as you can see with the courtyard. One of the comments that we got back from the staff, the village, the township planner, is a question about how these terraces work, and I have to explain. The notion here is that these particular units will be live-work units. This will be for professionals who want to operate a business out of their unit. So if you're an accountant, a real estate agent, you do a tax service from your home, you can put a shingle out here and have access and have people come and be customers. The challenge is that when you run a business, you have to meet commercial accessibility laws. And so if we made these up 2 feet on a stoop, these could not work as businesses. So what happens in the design is that as the hill goes up, we have an access down here at the bottom that allows you access flush to all these units. So you can come in here and follow this path to each one of these units to provide an accessible entrance for all those potential businesses and the potential contributors to the tax base of South Orange. We strive to have units with a variety of different attitudes to appeal to many different lifestyles, many different kinds of life choices, many different stages of life. We expect this project to appeal to both young professionals who thrive in the TOD lifestyle, as well as downsizers who live in your houses now, who are getting older, who may not want to use the stairs, who may want to be still stay as part of the South Orange community, but have a lower level of demand on their life from their household. So we design units to cater to all those kinds of types, and we try to create a community that is broad and welcoming to many types of folks who want to live in a TOD environment. These are the two the outside elevations of the building. The top elevation is the elevation along Valley Street. The lower elevation is the elevation along 3rd. As we described, the Valley Street elevation has these elements here, and at the top of the 3rd Street elevation that that scale the building down and have a more residential character to relate to the residential districts to the east. The building itself carries a red brick flavor here, as you can see in these material board A4 to my right, with a dark iron spot accents, with a blue siding above to articulate its identity. That identity comes around to this point where there's the piece that's in front of the garage, which has a slightly modified identity as if it was added at a later time as an authentic addition to this building. What we didn't want to have happen was this building read like one big monolith in your town. We recognized the scale. We wanted to relate to the distinct urban increment of buildings within South Orange. So we used these devices to break it down. But nonetheless, the scale of the building at this end, as the grade drops, does relate to the scale of Gaslight Commons to our west, so that there is that relationship. When you come through the train, there will be a balance on both sides of the track coming through that part of the project. The building, it has these elevations do show our HVAC systems in the walls. They're very well considered and carefully placed in the facades. Those are in the plans that you have before you. We attest to the fact that all the window sills will meet the 2-inch requirement in the redevelopment plan. The lintels, we'll talk about in a second. It depends on what your definition is of a lintel. We either meet or don't meet it, and I'll again leave that up to the board as to whether we would need relief for that element. For the larger scale drawings. Again, we meet the requirements for dormers. These are all well beyond the 3 and 12 requirement of your redevelopment plan. This is an example of a building and how the HVAC systems are tied in and using a careful color choice, careful mortar choice, and brick in the building facades, and that's a likely device we will use in our design to make them look seamless in the facades. This is an exhibit on the screen that talks to the requirement for 40% glass for the retail space. We did our math and we believe we've met the requirement. We will obviously provide this to your staff planner so they can confirm that assessment. But the green areas, in our estimation, are 40% of the overall wall of that retail space. We also will stipulate that we will meet the 70% visible light transmittance required for glass. What that means is that we're going to have clear glass on the building. You can start to see some of the detailing here. We're going to be placing the iron spot brick courses across the headers here and to create banding reminiscent and partly evocative of the traditions, the 1890 period of masonry that was perhaps more ornate than what we're doing here, but we feel that this is appropriate to our time and to the character of today's South Orange. Again, you can see how where we're locating signs. It's really hard to see on the screen, but there's a dotted dashed line showing where the signage locations will be. These openings are 12 foot wide, so that's a 12 by 2 spot above there, above there, above there. We also hope to have awnings placed over these openings to help soften it and provide more retail character. Those awnings may choose to have signage, to have text along the edge of the awning, and perhaps a graphic in the center. That's a very dignified way to present a identity for a tenant. We'll see what happens when that tenant comes on board. We also are providing opportunities for identity at the sides of the entrance and on this canopy here for the main entrance to the building. There also is a potential sign for the leasing office, which will be on the other side of that door there. Again, this is on that main gateway plaza. Going down the hill, this is a section through that terrace area. We are providing the potential opportunity for signage for each of the live-work units. in the terrace. And the TOD entrance, we also have an opportunity for signage on the canopy here, as well as signs along at the two sides and around the corner where there's the accessible entrance. There's a couple steps here. The grade comes into that terrace area where there's a door for the TOD lobby. Finally, for the front of the 3rd Street facade along the garage, there are smaller signage requirements for that. Obviously, the pedestrian entrance will be marked. There will be an entrance and exit marked for the garage openings. There'll be a small sign here for the loading dock to talk about what the service requirements are and how to call the front desk, etc. And if you choose, this is partly your garage too, we can easily add a blade sign to the building to mark the garage, to give it more prominence. We can, that's up for discussion.
How about neon?
Brian, what you're referring to is because there's a public element in the garage.
That's correct.
We understand. We understand.
Here are some sections through the building, just describing, this is the main courtyard. This is one of the sections through one of the southwest courtyards laterally. Again, you can see this is the valley view looking south. So this is valley, a story up. It steps down. There are units facing this courtyard that flushes out at grade effectively at this point along 3rd. Finally, we decided upon a contemporary vernacular for the garage to respond to a couple of goals. One, because two sides of the garage are surrounded by the residential building per your request, to achieve openness for sustainability reasons, so we don't have to run fans 24 hours of the day, we needed a lot of open. We need 40% of the horizontal facade to be open. And in order to do that, traditional aesthetics tend not to give us the openness we would need to be sustainable here. So we worked out this screen, framed screen that is energetic and talks to the train and the green line as people come along the Morristown line to go into the city. It also allows the garage to be much more it reads like a wall, but it's still very open, so that provides safety to the customers who might be using the garage at night and during off hours. Here's a view from the tracks of that facade. Again, we think it's a dignified, transit-oriented solution that helps us meet our sustainability goals. Sorry for going over by 10 minutes.
Brian, let me ask you, one of the questions was the number of stories and the height of the building.
We're within the requirements for the redevelopment for height and both.
And how many stories are there in the building? Depending on how you measure.
Yeah, the building code definition of height is very different than but there's effectively 5 stories in that section. So there is if you will, a story here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories. But from the outside, along Valley Street, there'd be a perceived 3. This story will be sort of tucked away. Along 3rd Street, the height grows as you go down there. The perceived height.
Can you briefly describe the roof, the design of the roof? It's a flat roof.
Ideally, the majority of it will be a cool roof, which is a white surface to help us meet LEED requirements. There will also be, on the exposed portions of the roofs, those that are seen by the public, we're going to be using composite slate roofing. This is a recycled product that emulates slate. I've used it in my past career, I did a building at Yale, and we used this there, and you can't tell it's not natural slope, in my opinion.
Can you just, I know you you looked at two or referred to two of the exhibits. I think you,
Sure.
A5 and A4 you may have referred to. Can you just?
So we have three material boards here. The A4 material board refers to the building identities that are closest to Valley Street. The A5 board refers to the building facade that is in front of the parking garage on 3rd. And the A6 board refers to the materials that are proposed for the parking garage facade and the back portions of the building on the south facade that face the inner portions of the block.
And Brian, Mario had deflected some of this to you. Can you describe how we're going to integrate the transformers into the courtyard?
Sure. Hard to see. The transformers will be behind a wall that's here with a gate that basically acts as the access to the back surface area for this retail space. So there will be a wall here, a somewhat collegiate wall, if you will, that surrounds the area where the transformer will be kept. And I will go back to the plan so you can see that in the plan. Here's the plan. There's a wall that comes around here, comes around here, comes around here. That wall proceeds to continue into the facade here with a gate, so that creates a forecourt, service court here, if you will, that then allows there to be back house portions of the retail business to be in that part of that space.
And then provides direct access for the utility.
And provides direct access for the utility, again, through the same gate, service gate.
Layout of the building, units in the building. I think for now that would be our direct, Brian, unless there's something you want to. I think that's for direct. I'm sure we'll pick up other items from the review letters, but for purposes of brevity.
Right, excellent, thank you. When you do come back, what we would like you to do is to provide us a very clear diagram of your compliance with our zoning for the building. So if you take the sections or your elevations, you can condense them into something, so it will help. You know, we spent a long time actually approving or actually formulating the zoning for the site. So if you can come back now and show us how it complies with all aspects. I'm talking about height, coverage, all of that. Yeah, I know that Susan went through it, but I think it would be useful for the board to see. We spent a long time on the height of the courtyard vis-a-vis the height of the building itself. So all those, if you go back through our zoning for us, that would be very helpful for us if you can.
Happy to.
Good. And then the other thing is, we would like to, Jetty, can we put this up on the website, this actual presentation for our board and for the public?
I'll have to check with Stan.
I think you can. I think if you don't, I think we're going to ask you to provide us with hard copies of the presentation for all the board members. Maybe do that anyway.
We're going to do that anyway.
Why don't you do that? Because there's a lot of information in there that we didn't get in our package. And I think it would be useful for us when we meet you again on the next meeting.
Do you want that in 11 by 17?
Yeah, that'd be perfect. In color, of course. Goes without saying. So if you want to integrate the zoning into that, you could do that, or you could represent it the next time. But I would recommend that you recommend that we wait. I can't imagine it'll take you more than 3 or 4 days to actually just do all the dials. You've done it. You've obviously complied with it, but then you can just memorialize it.
So, in the interest of trying to save some forests, could we get it on CD-ROM instead? Is that possible?
Well, we have it in CD-ROM.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
You want an individual?
The amount of paper we're getting is incredible. If there's anything we could do to cut back on it, I would.
We have provided a digital version already.
We have a
to
digital
South Orange,
version,
So
so-
if you
Well-
want to distribute that, that would be,
I would find that sufficient. I won't speak for my fellow board members, but
I hear you. So how would we do that? Second. Copy the CD-ROM and...
you can have the thumb drive.
Thumb drives.
Yeah. Or why don't
You can have the thumb drive we brought. That's
Why don't we keep the thumb drive and then we
You
get,
can
how do we
email.
get it to our board members? We're such Luddites.
And so I just threw
No,
out
I hear you,
so
I
much
hear. I
paper,
think we're gonna
feel
need a
awful.
couple of hard copies, but maybe not for every board member. I know that our council wants one. You don't want one.
Thumb drive would be fine.
Thumb drive will be fine. So
I
why
have
don't you...
enough paper.
Okay.
Make a dozen.
Make a half a dozen hard
We'll get
copies. Make 6,
Or CD, I don't know.
and then, or maybe you want to burn us a couple of CDs.
Whatever,
Either way,
whatever you do.
either way.
Why can't we just take what's on that thumb and just get that out to?
We can also
Can.
give you a
I don't know how
web,
to do it.
we have a we can put it on a website that you can then,
Why don't you give us a site that we can access? It's perfect.
right.
And it would be
FTP
great
site.
too if we can put that on our website so members of the public can see as well.
Yeah, it should be.
Well, we'll have a link to their website.
Yes, we'll get that to you.
And you can also leave the thumb drive with us? All right, I'll just take that and email it to Jenny.
We'll still take 6 hard copies, because we're greedy.
I got it. We're
But we've
sending
gone
you-
way down from the...
We have other
what,
stuff
12
that we're sending as well.
Right. He needs one. He wants one.
Fine.
Council.
The people who want it, they just print it out from their printers.
And then we have a record. So, that's great. Given that, so how do you want to proceed now? It's 10:20. I think with Susan's comments and the new information, we should take it all and then be prepared at the next meeting. I know some of you aren't going to be here, but could they provide their thoughts to us in the email? How do we work with that?
As long as they're expressed in the public hearing. 18. They haven't been from members who have been before.
I think it's the 19th.
So that the public may not.
All right, because I think we're going to shoot for, I'm building up to something here, I think. We're going to shoot for the 19th. You're going to try and make it. If not, Frank will be here, correct? Because we'll start with the architecture, but then we'll go back to all the comments the engineers had.
Are we going to have a more than a quorum, or just make the quorum?
Well, we're going to actually find out again who's,
Because
Mark and
I don't
Adam.
think we want to get into a situation where...
No, I know.
Yeah.
Trust me, I'm with you.
It sounded like you'll have a
We are
quorum
going
as
to,
long
because
as...
Mark and
as long as
Adam,
he
you're going to
agrees cancel this
reorganize
meeting.
yourself so that you can be here. Can you come?
I'll be here, yeah.
All right, so we're already 3. I'll be here. Deviani and Michael will be here. Allison can't make it. And Danny can't, and Eli can? Oh, so we're cool. And Harold, you can or cannot?
No, I cannot.
No, okay.
I'm shaking my head.
But you could forward your comments, once you get the package, you've had time to digest Susan's comments as well. You could forward your own thoughts to us by email to Ojetti, and we will read through them when we're ready to comment. All right, so I think that we're going to meet council, so we're going to reconvene on the 19th.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
The architects, the architect has just given his, and it's one thing for us to hold our questions. I guess it's more of a legal question, and maybe it just doesn't matter, but I just would like to know. The public, I mean, I know there aren't a lot of members of the public here tonight, but my question is, is there anything wrong with just taking a complete break from, a professional giving their testimony at one meeting and having the public having no opportunity to ask the question at that meeting?
Well, we're going to ask questions as well. We're going to bring the professional back.
I understand. I didn't know if there was any difference.
We're just going to continue.
It's okay. He's taking a break.
So we're okay. So that's how we're going to do it. We're going to conclude now, and we're going to go into closed session, and then we will start again with Brian when he comes back, and he will have provided us those diagrams. We will have the benefit of his presentation to review, and then we'll just start from there.
Can I ask that you just formally announce the carry, time, place, and date for the continued hearing?
Yes.
And that no further notice?
Right. So we are going to reconvene and formally hear this application again on June 19th and we will start at 7:30.
Subject to force majeure.
No, we'll be here. So, no further notice required. All right?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So at this point, we are going to close adjourn our meeting, and we're going to go into closed session. Thank you.
How does that work formally? If you call, the meeting's still going on, if we're in closed session, don't we have to come back out to close it
They
formally?
recess it.
Yeah, we're just gonna go into closed
We're
session.
just going to go to closed
For the
session, so I'm not
purpose-
going to use this yet.
That's why I'm saying.
Thank you.
I was watching.
For
All
the
right.
purpose of discussing litigation,
That's what I'm just going to ask Matt.
for the record.
You do not need to be here.
Yes, we're going into litigation, to discuss litigation.
Discuss our litigation.
The contents of that will be disclosed when the litigation is resolved.
All right, thank you. We're back, but we have no more business for tonight, so we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. See you.